All right, now let's build an agent together. So the first step in building a voice agent on Thoughtly is obviously to come into the Thoughtly platform, scroll down to the Agents tab, and then click on New Agent in the top right corner. When you do that, you then are brought to the details page. This allows you to kind of give the details of your agent. So you could first give it a name. Let's just call it Demo Agent. The type of agent that it is, once again, kind of just gives the agent a sense of self, not too important. If you don't see anything here, you could either put general or custom, and that kind of leaves it open. But if it's particularly sales or virtual receptionist, you could put that there. For this, let's just put general. Then you could start from blank, or you could wait our marketplace where you could buy and sell demos and give away demos or templates for yourself. So once we do that, you press continue and you're brought to your agent builder with 3 blank nodes. These are the main nodes. There are 4 nodes that you have to worry about in building agents. First being a start node, second being a speak node, transfer node, and lastly, end node. So to get started, before you worry about anything else, let's first talk about start nodes. Start nodes are obviously going to be how the conversation starts. In this example, it says, "Thank you for calling Thoughtly. This is Tessa. Who am I speaking with?" We're obviously looking for that name before continuing. Now, if you have an inbound call, meaning somebody calls into your business, you're going to want to start your conversations similar to this. This is Tessa. Who am I speaking with? And obviously, we're looking for the name here. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to put inside of rules here, do not continue until you get the caller's name. Now, this assures that we get the name before continuing. Now, this isn't necessary, but it's kind of a rule that you can just throw in there, just making sure that you do get that name before anything else happens. Now, if this were to be an outbound call, we would obviously have their name, we would have all of their information before triggering the call. So we can say something like, "Hey, is this?" And then we're going to come to this lightning bolt and we're going to click contact name. Is this name? Obviously there would be 2 outcomes from here. Yes, this is, and then let's just do this. Yes, this is name, and then no, this is not. So that's kind of how you could determine your outbound calls. So if it's not that person, you could then send it over to an end node. That end node would end the conversation. If it is, it would continue on to your conversation. But for this demo in particular, let's start with an inbound call. And then we could discuss outbound calls a little bit later. But to start this off, let's just say, "Thank you for calling Thoughtly. This is Tessa. Who do I have the pleasure of speaking to?" Basic way of starting a conversation. If it's outbound, you could reference all the data that you have. Let's say it's an inbound call and you want to reference their information. You would have to kind of set up an automation to determine whether they're in your system or not, so you could reference past information. Definitely more of a complex use case, but for this, let's make it real easy and just start our conversation here, asking for their name, and then we're not going to continue until we do get their name. Now that's going to be the basics of a start node. Next, we're going to be jumping into a speak node. Now that we're assured that we're going to get their name before continuing, the next node we're going to be putting down here is a speak node. This speak node is going to either be a message, which allows you to kind of put a basis of how you want the agent to speak. It's not going to be word for word, but it's kind of like a script that the agent could almost abide by. Or you could do a prompt, where you kind of just give it instructions and it has free reins to do as it pleases. I prefer messages, so let's go ahead with a message here and say, why don't we just go ahead and make this real simple and say, "Would you like to speak to sales or service?" With this in mind, this is very simple. We're looking for either sales or service. Keep in mind, this caller could ask questions like, "Where are you located? Can I get booked in for an appointment?" Anything. Literally, the conversation can consist of anything. These outcomes are just what we're looking for. So the agent could kind of answer questions and bring the conversation back onto your happy path. So with that being said, we're going to add outcomes of what we're specifically looking for inside of our question here. Now, if you want to make routes and trees for a certain scenario, you could always add that inside your outcomes, but it's not necessary to just follow your happy path. So here, let's put the caller wants to speak with sales. And then the next would be the caller wants to speak with service. Now, if the caller wants to speak with sales, let's say we need to send them a booking link to find the proper time to book a call with sales. So we take our outcome, we connect it to our next speak node here, and we say, so we have, great, I am texting you a link now to book an appointment with a sales associate. One moment. Now, then we're gonna come down here to actions. We could search through this and add to your CRM as necessary, send a webhook, add whatever data you want. But for this very basic example, we're gonna send a text message with a phone number that we have on Thoughtly to the contact's phone number that they're calling into. Keep in mind, you can do a little bit more of a complex use case here where you ask what their preferred mobile number is. And then if they prefer a different number, we could actually extract that field from the conversation using extraction fields. So like extract the person's preferred phone number. Then we use that phone number to text them instead of the number they're calling on. So for this example, typically it's always going to be someone's mobile number they're calling from, and you could just send them over a text. So to make it simple, we do it this way, and we'll just put, here's a link to book your appointment. And then let's just do that, demo.com. All right, so then it's gonna text over that link, generate that output just to test it. Kind of want to make this verbatim too, just so it says this word for word. After that, we're gonna have another speak node that says, I just sent you over a link, let me know if you received it. Boom. Now, a good rule to put here, keep in mind you can play with your rules here. A good rule to put here is do not continue until the caller confirms they received the link. Now, if the caller says they didn't receive it, it will then try again. And if they don't receive it, it will try again. And then unfortunately, it will error out if perhaps they're calling from like a landline or something. But once again, we could always compensate for that using the extraction fields. Now let's finish off this side here. So where the caller confirmed they receive it, because we can't continue until the caller does confirm that, we're then going to say, great. Do you have any more questions for me before I go? Now there's some things you could do here where you could have outcomes that go elsewhere. So if somebody didn't receive that text message link, you could have that as an outcome. And then the next point of action would be to send them an email via our mid-call actions. So you can have like scapegoats. For example, like in this example, if they didn't receive that text message, we confirm if they did receive it or not. If they didn't, we could put that inside of an outcome. Caller did not receive the link. Caller did receive a link. If the caller did receive a link, it'd go to this node. If they didn't, we could say, all right, let me get your email. I'll send you an email with the link instead. Either one works. You could then extract the field, send a webhook, which sends an email. However, for this example, we're going to keep it real nice and simple. I don't want to go too much into extremes. I'll be making videos to help you out there. Now, what I'm actually going to do, just so you know how prompts work, I'm actually going to take this out and I'm going to put in a prompt. Instead of this, I'll delete this and I'll put in a prompt here. And I'll just say, now it's basically what I did inside that rule, but now it's just inside of a prompt. As you notice, there's no rules inside of prompt nodes. So we have our prompt here. We're asking if they have any more questions before we go. And if they don't, we're going to hang up the call. But that's going to be a prompt node. Pretty much gives you a good understanding of how you could use prompt nodes as well inside of your conversations. Gives the agent free reins to do as they please towards the end of the conversation. But with that, now we could start discussing end nodes. End nodes, very, very simple. At the end of the conversation, caller has no more questions. Conversation's dialing down. You got exactly what you need from that caller. We're then going to hit them with an end node saying, thank you for the call today. Have a good one. Whatever it might be to just outro this call. Simple as that. As soon as you reach the end of the conversation, you could throw in an end node and it will respectfully end the call with the rules and decision trees that you've put in place. So now that we discussed end nodes, speak nodes, prompt nodes, start nodes, there's only one node left, and I'm going to use this for this example here. If we want to speak with service, let's say only humans could deal with service inquiries, we're then going to transfer to a human using a transfer node. Take this outcome, connect it to the transfer node, select, maybe it could be a phone number or another AI voice agent. Let's just go with a phone number. And let's say service department is the name. You put in their phone number here. You put in the extension if it's applicable, and then you're going to put in a message that it's going to say right before it transfers. So I'll say, I'm transferring you to the service department. If you don't get an answer, please leave a message. We will get back to you within business hours. So this kind of just gives it a disclaimer that they might not receive an answer from this department. We'd get back to them within business hours if that were the case. But here, we're just passing off basic message before we transfer. As soon as this message has been said, it's going to transfer off the call and the call will be terminated. So that's going to be all of the nodes wrapped into one agent here. Very, very basic agent, very effective as well. We have an inbound call here that starts with the start node, pretty much saying, thanks for calling Thoughtly, who do I have the pleasure of speaking of? We get that person's name, move to another speak node where we have, if they want to speak to sales or service. Keep in mind, the agent might take some time here troubleshooting before we can get them kind of decided of where they want to go, sales or service. We then have our speak node here. If they want to speak to sales, we text them a link to book a call with a sales associate using an SMS node. We then confirm if they did receive that link with a rule saying you cannot continue until the caller confirms. Once they do confirm, we then have a prompt node here that says, ask the caller if they have any more questions before you go. Do not hang up the call until the caller has no more questions. Good way of using a prompt node. You could use it in a million of different ways. Then gets passed to an end node saying, have a good day, because the call has officially ended if the caller has no more questions. Now, if the caller speaks to service, we have an outcome here that leads directly to a transfer node where we transfer directly to a service representative, giving a disclaimer that they might not get an answer and they should leave a message if that were the case. Now, I'd like you to take these basic rules that I've shown you. I'll make more complex examples, but these basic rules can go a long way inside of your agent building. You could transfer off to many different people. You could do a bunch of mid-call actions. You could mess around with prompt nodes. Following these basic rules, you'll be able to build extremely dynamic conversations within your voice agents. So with that, that's going to be the basics of building a voice agent on the Thoughtly platform.